So we're back in our InDesign file that we set up in our last video for a book jacket design. And one of the things that we set up in that video was a 1/8 inch bleed on all sides. And in the first part of this video, I want to dive a little bit deeper into why we set up a bleed on our document. And a bleed should be put on all print documents, no matter what size they are. And for most print pieces, 1/8 of an inch is standard. So what a bleed allows us to do is it allows us a margin of error when we trim our pieces out or when the printer trims them in bulk. When we send something off to get printed, it gets printed in the hundreds to the thousands to sometimes the tens of thousands. And the printer will cut them in stacks of 500 to 1,000 sheets. And the way the blade goes through, the way any blade goes through a stack of papers, the cut is going to be perfect on the very first sheet. But the further down we go, the further we cut through, the more the blade slips ever so slightly. So what we are allowing by pulling anything that comes off the edge of the page out to our bleed, we're giving our knife 1/8 inch margin of error. So let's look at that a little bit more visually than just a white screen and me talking. If we take our rectangle tool and draw a new shape, and then I'm going to place an image inside of the shape by hitting Command D or Control D on a PC. I'm going to paste that in there, or place that in there, and reduce the file proportionately. So if I'm putting this image on my design, and say I increase the size, and I'm holding down Shift Command or Shift Control on a PC, get my image and frame to scale at the same time proportionately. And I have this and I put it directly up to the edge of the side of the sheet of paper. If we zoom in here, if the dark gray is our paper that it's being printed on, and this is our edge, if we go in and we make a cut along the edge of the paper, indicated by this black line, if we cut perfectly, we will get a nice clean cut, nice clean edge. However, if our knife slips to the left ever so slightly, we zoom in here, we'll notice that there is a little bit of paper between our cut and the image. So what we can do to prevent that is we can just take this image and move it out to our bleeds. And now that same cut line is cutting through the image. So if we cut all the way down, remember this is white technically. If we cut all the way down, we're still cutting through the image even though our cut is off by a few millimeters. But again, if our cut was perfect, we'd have that nice clean edge. So that's what the bleed does. It allows us a little bit of margin of error so that when we trim out our work, we don't have any slivers of white or anything like that. Now, other items can come off the edge of the page. So if we have a circle, for instance, and I pull that out and I put this circle on my design, that also needs to come out to the bleed. So in this instance, it goes over the bleed and that's fine. So even that needs to bleed off. But we do need to be conscious of these negative spaces that are happening right here and here. So we might want to adjust our design ever so slightly to get those white corners out of the way. Okay, so shapes can go off the edge of the page. Type can also go off the page. We may choose, for a stylistic reason, to have our text running off the page. And if it's type as image or type as texture, then we do want to try to get that to run off the edge of the page out to our bleeds. In the instance of type as image and type as texture, we've already decided by using typography in this way that its main purpose is not necessarily to be read. So whether it gets pulled out to the bleed or not really doesn't matter. We have explored how the bleed works and why it is set up. But now I want to dive in and I want to talk about how we add color into our InDesign document. So by default, if we look in our Swatches panel, which is over here, and if you don't have any of the panels that I'm referencing open, you can just go to Window and navigate through here. Your swatches is going to be under Color, and you're just going to come over and check the Swatches panel and it will pop up. So any panel that I reference, if it's not open on your screen, just go up to Window, and there are a few things. Color has some nested panels, and Types and Tables also has some nested panels. But anything with the arrow, you're going to be able to find additional panels kind of in the menus. So by default, we're going to go into our Swatches panel. If your Swatches panel isn't open in your InDesign, go up to Window, and we're going to come down to Color, and we're going to make sure and just select Swatches, and it will pop up on your screen. And this goes for any other panel that I may reference in a video. If you don't have it open, or if you don't see it, then you need to come into Window and find it in here. The one exception to that is this top menu bar right up here at the very top. You're going to want to go to Window and make sure Control is selected, and that's going to pop up this very useful toolbar up at the top. So let's look at our swatches real quick. And by default, we have cyan, magenta, yellow, and then red, green, and blue. We have our fill and our stroke color. We have white, which is always going to be the paper color, and we have black, which is 100% black. So we're going to add some colors into this swatches panel here, and I'm going to show you a couple ways to do that. So first, we're going to go into Safari or any web browser that you have on your computer, and I just want to type in color themes. And we're going to go directly into images. And you'll start to see in here that you'll find these images that is an image and then 5 or 6 colors underneath it. So there are different sites, and a matter of fact, if you're on Pinterest, Pinterest is a fabulous way to find these color swatches just like this. So I'm going to search for maybe dark blue color themes and kind of look through what images are available. And I think that I like this one right here. I just like the different blues and the seafoam green and everything. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to right click on the file, and I'm going to do Save Image As. And I have a Demo 3 file set up. And I'm going to go ahead and start organizing my folder a little bit, and I'm going to create an Images folder. And I'm just going to save that right in there. I'm going to come back to my InDesign file. I'm going to hit Command D or Control D on a PC, and this is for place. And go to my desktop, Demo 3, Images, and grab that color palette that we just downloaded. And I'm just going to click once. And that's loaded in kind of big, so I'm going to make that a little bit smaller. Put it over there. Next, I'm going to come in and I'm going to get my rectangle tool, and I'm going to draw out 5 different squares. And they're going to be black because my fill is set to black, and that's fine. And I'm holding down Shift and Option, or Alt, Shift and Alt on a PC to make copies. And I'm just going to make 5 copies because we have 5 colors over there. Okay, so now I'm going to hit I on my keyboard, and that's going to select my Eyedropper tool. And I'm going to come over here, and I'm going to just sample out of the photo this dark blue. I know it's a little hard to see on screen, but it has replaced that color with the dark blue. Now, you'll notice that the Eyedropper tool, if we zoom in on it, is still a fill eyedropper. So that means I could go to this box and just fill it blue here and fill that one blue. If I want to sample a new color, I hold down Option or Alt on a PC. And if I want to get back to my arrow or my selection tool, I hold down Command or Control on a PC. So that will allow me to select my next box. I'm going to zoom out here. I'm going to hold down Option, Alt on a PC, sample my new color, Command, Control on a PC, Option, sample my new color, Command, Option, Command, finally Option. I'm going to go ahead and zoom the rest of the way out here. And then I'm going to hit V to get back to my selection tool. So now we have those colors from the image as individual swatches. I'm going to go ahead, I'm going to delete this photo because I don't need it anymore. And I'm going to select my top square. And I'm going to come over into my Swatches panel. I'm going to move these a little bit closer so when I zoom in, you guys can see them. But I'm going to come over into my Swatches panel here. And with the first one selected, I'm going to come up and I'm going to do New Color Swatch. And the color by default is RGB because it was selected from an RGB image. But we want to change this value to CMYK because we are working in print. And this is going to give it percentage values, and then it rounds it up or down in the swatch name. And we do want to keep the swatch name named with the color value. And we want the color type to be process. And we're going to click OK. And you'll notice over here that it's added that dark blue in our swatches panel. Next, we're going to select the next color down and just repeat that. New color swatch. CMYK. OK. Third swatch, same thing again. All the way down for all 5 of the colors. But really, we're just opening up new colors in the new color swatch and changing the color mode. And lastly, our seafoam green that we like. New color swatch, CMYK. So now we have our 5 colors from that image that we pulled from the web that we liked the color palette of. And we can go ahead and we could get rid of those, but I'm going to use these squares in another quick demo right here. But we now have access to those all the time. If I zoom back out, well, remember this image that we pulled into the InDesign document to help us visualize our bleed. So in this instance, I'm going to bring this over, and I could do this with any image that I brought into my InDesign file. I'm going to select the topmost or the darkest value. I'm going to hit the letter I on my keyboard to get my eyedropper. I'm going to select the color, and I'm going to grab the next one. Hold down Option or Alt on a PC. Command, Option, Command, Option, Command, Option. And we could add a 6th color, which is the lighter. And we'd go through the exact same process to get it into our swatches panel. We'd go click on get back to our arrow tool, click on the swatch, come up here, do New Color Swatch, change it to CMYK, and click OK. And we do that for all 6 colors. So you can also create a color palette from your own photos. Now we don't need these anymore. And next I want to show you the last way that we can add colors into an InDesign document. We can come up and in the upper right hand corner, that menu that we've been clicking on, we're going to go ahead and create a new color swatch. We have nothing selected except the black. And under our color mode, zoom out here a little bit, we're going to click on that and we're going to come all the way down to Pantone Solid Coated. And we're going to select that. Now this gives us probably about 1,000 or more colors that we can select. So as you go through here, what's kind of neat about this is that you can find a color, and over time you learn where the colors exist and reside. numerically. And you can select a color. So I'm going to select kind of a fire engine red. And I'm just going to click Add. And you'll notice that it has popped up in the Swatches panel. And say I want a darker red. Maybe you have a slightly different hue. Maybe a little bit more purple. I can click Add again. Now I want to go and find a green or bluish green. And I can click Add. And again, Add. So sometimes we'll use Pantone colors instead of these randomly selected colors because we can show the client a swatch and show them, okay, this is this purple, and in the swatches it will show the custom printed spot color next to a CMYK variant of the same color. And so we can show the client a sample of what Pantone 7671 is going to print like. So once we're done adding, we can just click OK, and that's going to add that purple. And now we've seen 3 different ways to bring in colors. So now we're ready to design our book cover. And that's all I have for this video. Thank you for your time, and I'll see you next time.